This is Judge James Linn, the man who sentenced Jocqui to 150 days in Cook County Jail, 2.5 years of probation, $120,000 in restitution fees, and a $25,000 fine, totaling $145,000 due to the city of Chicago. Let's talk about his judicial misconduct, his conflict of interest, and why ultimately he never should have been a judge presiding over this case. There are several issues we were not allowed to even bring up during the trial. One of them is police misconduct, which is ridiculous because this case is riddled with police misconduct. So with this transcript behind me, you can see Judge Linn, in his own words, he's speaking to our defense team, and he's telling them that anything around the police investigation being flawed is not allowed. He tells us that anything around leaks from CPD or Anthony Guglielmi to the media, although they were untrue, is not allowed. Of course, he tells us we can talk about the brothers, but then he says that we aren't allowed to bring up the press conference given by former Superintendent Eddie Johnson and former Mayor Rahm Emanuel, citing that he doesn't see the relevance to the trial. Well, Judge Linn, it matters because we live in a country where you're supposed to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, and comments like this do not help.
He used it to promote his own career. And then he's walking around as if he has done nothing wrong.
Well, you clearly, Mayor, are calling out Smollett.
This doesn't help either.
Mr. Smollett is still saying that he is innocent, still running down the Chicago Police Department. How dare him? How dare him?
And let's not forget about when Eddie Johnson made 3 claims that were all debunked.
Smollett attempted to gain attention by sending a false letter that relied on racial, homophobic, and political language. Smollett paid $3,500 to stage this attack. The stunt was orchestrated by Smollett because he was dissatisfied with his salary. So he concocted a story about being attacked.
It's nearly impossible to keep a jury pool of local Chicagoans unbiased when in 2019, not only your superintendent of the police department, but also your mayor are making statements like that. Rahm Emanuel is now the ambassador to Japan, and Eddie Johnson has since been fired. Detective Kimberly Murray, the same person who made a direct threat to our attorney, saying if Jesse doesn't charge the brothers, it's going to look like he's not cooperating, has 15 allegations against her on her record. One of them is for verbal abuse based on sexual orientation. Well, if you read into this more, you'll find that it was actually homophobic hate speech against a black man. But we couldn't bring this up because we were barred from police misconduct. Detective Graves has 20 allegations against him, one of which is this allegation behind me where he was accused of using racist hate speech and threatening violence against a group of black men and women. Beyond not being able to talk about police misconduct, we also were not allowed to talk about Jesse's philanthropic efforts in the past. We were not allowed to bring witnesses to testify on behalf of his character. We were not allowed to even talk about the 50 employees fired from Northwestern Hospital because they leaked Jesse's medical records. Why is that? Let's talk about how Judge Linn has sentenced folks in the past. So there are 7 cases below me. None of these folks received jail time. Point 7 is really the one that stands out most to me. This is a domestic violence case, not only domestic violence case, but a repeat domestic violence case. The original domestic violence case committed by this individual, Judge Linn, also presided over sentencing for that, gave them a slap on the wrist, and second time around, only gave them 2 years of probation. Judge Linn, it appears, has been informally barred by the state attorney's office in handling any cases around sexual assault. BetterGov.org, an organization that's been around for 100 years and dedicated to keeping public officials in Illinois accountable, published an article around this. Well, they published this email between former state attorney Anita Alvarez and her team. In this email from 2011, they're talking about a case regarding Joseph Foltz. Joseph Foltz was convicted by a jury of predicated criminal sexual assault. The mandatory sentence for that charge is life in prison. Judge Linn, on his own accord, reduced that charge from predicated sexual assault to aggravated sexual assault, and as a result, gave that person 18 years in prison. As you can see, in response to Joseph Maggott's email about this, the state attorney, Anita Alvarez, responds, "What is his problem?" This is getting out of hand with him. After 2011, when that email is sent, the number of cases assigned around sexual assault to Judge Linn dramatically decreases. He went from his peak of 60 in 2009 to effectively 0 in 2016, 2018. It appears the way this was accomplished was through the usage of what's called an SOJ, or substitution of judge. With an SOJ, no reason has to be given to boot the judge. A new judge will be quickly appointed in their place. In the 2 years following that case from 2011, Judge Linn is excluded from 25 sex cases using SOJs. Eventually, he's not even randomly assigned them at all. Judge Linn has not presided over a sexual assault case since 2013. Anyone who's excluded from presiding over sexual assault cases shouldn't be presiding over assault cases in general. To make matters worse, Judge Linn has a huge conflict of interest regarding MAGA and Trump. It's one thing to vote for Trump in private. That shouldn't necessarily force you to disqualify yourself. But it's another when your wife is a huge public donor of Donald Trump, having given him the maximum amount any individual is allowed to give. And his uncle has held fundraisers in California where the minimum donation to attend is $250,000. That means his uncle at least fundraised 7 figures for Donald Trump. In a case where Jesse explicitly said there were remarks around MAGA, his race, and his sexuality, Judge Linn should have recused himself. The Sixth Amendment guarantees our right to a public trial. Judge Linn violated Jesse's right to a public trial when he banned Bella Boz from coming back to the courtroom. In response, Judge Linn says that he did not intend to ban anyone from the courtroom, and he asked that person in question, Bella Boz, not to be in the first row. One thing to note about the first row, that's where me and my entire family was sitting. Judge Linn explicitly said and made clear that anyone sitting in the first row was not allowed to talk to the media. He effectively put a gag order on my family. Funny enough, Judge Linn says he didn't intend to ban her, but somehow Cook County sheriffs confirmed that he made a verbal order to bar Bella Boz, and deputies escorted her out of the courthouse in compliance with that order. When Bella returned on Thursday to attend the trial again, she was again escorted out of the building. This was intentional, and a complete violation of Jesse's Sixth Amendment rights, and a violation of Bella Boz as a tax-paying citizen who has the right to view a public trial. Just 4 hours before the jurors reach their final verdict, Judge Linn makes a highly biased move and gives them the Good Morning America interview. This was on his own accord. It was not requested of any of the jurors. It was requested the day before by the prosecution, and Linn denied the request because he agreed with our defense team that, one, this had not had the chance to be cross-examined by our team, and 2, this is 17 minutes from an hour-and-a-half interview that's been highly production live for Hollywood, and 3, this interview was taken when Jesse was still considered a victim before the law, and so comments and statements he makes should not be upheld in court. Our justice system only works when judges are neutral. That's their role. Judge Linn made clear that he never planned to be neutral in this case. From making jokes about folks going to Subway for lunch, to falling asleep when our defense was giving their argument, to this transcript behind me where Tamara Walker, one of our defense attorneys, is questioning Ola Osundero about his history of homophobic tweets and text messages. Judge Linn said it was collateral, basically meaning it doesn't matter, in front of the jury. He asked her to focus her cross-examination, inferring that her cross-examination was not focused, in front of the jury. To the detective making remarks about Jesse that were deemed homophobic, and Judge Linn responds saying, so what? He can say that. This is not a neutral adjudicator, and only neutral adjudicators can make this system work. He made it abundantly clear that he was focused on one thing, securing a conviction of Jesse.